Welcome to the weekly episode for the SC Hub for NBL SuperCoach. This is Barnesy back again. This week we got on the panel Boz. Welcome back, Boz.
Thanks, Barnesy. Always lovely to be here on a Tuesday evening. And if you can see next to me here, there's a bit of a shining light going straight through me on my webcam here. Finally, something's gone right for me, and I've had a decent week. How'd you go, Barnesy?
He's looking down on you. Well, I mean, before let's let the debutant go first. Holden, we got on, who a lot of the listeners probably know from the Discord server. Got some great advice and chat on there, and doing pretty well in SuperCoach. So, Holden, welcome for your debut, mate. Since you are the debutant, we'll get you to go first. How did your round go? What did you score, and how are you travelling?
Yeah, thanks, boys. I'm doing all right. I scored a 435, which wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. I mean, it's probably like about middle of around par. Yeah, done well. It pulled me up 8 ranks to rank 82.
Beautiful. That's pretty good, Boz. It's a tough act to follow, mate. Did you manage to get the green arrows this week?
I got green arrows, so that's a win. Just a 400 flat for me. Again, kind of just probably one primo short of everyone else in the competition, and just trying to make up ground where I can. But yeah, green arrows, still paddling away out in the 3,000 range. So yeah, Holden, you are absolutely dominating me this year.
Well, green arrows any week is good. I managed to get green arrows, which I was very happy with. 451, moved into the top 50 at 48. So it was a weird week because I was very happy after lockout and happy with the rank, happy to keep moving up. But I wasn't happy with my decisions. So this is a classic example, and I've spoken about this before in NBL a couple of times, but I've mentioned it many times on NRL. Some of the worst moves that you make is when you're either time poor or you're trying to do it right before lockout because things change. Right before lockout, I panicked because I had Pete Ling in there and he didn't have the double. I really wanted to be aggressive this round and I wasn't sure on him. And I was thinking about Darling a little bit because one of the things that I think as a strategy is a bit under the radar is with guys that teams are going to want to develop. If they're getting smashed, there's going to be some garbage time. And I saw Darling the week before get some garbage time and absolutely carve it. And I was like, you know what? Like, he's just been named to start. I've got 5 minutes till this game, and he's starting now. And this is the first game of a double game week, and Pete Ling's got the one. So, of course, I reversed it. Thought, you save 10 grand. He's starting. If they go badly, he'll play in garbage time as well. So you'll be right. And, of course, he was terrible. So I've actually made a massive mistake in doing that, and my bench actually wasn't very good. But, there were some massive scores, though, boys. So that ended up helping. Obviously, the big score of the round and one of the stories as well is that we had some big scores where it was guys that were on singles. So, I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there first of all. Did anybody get in Kendrick Davis? Did either of you get in Kendrick Davis last week?
Yeah.
Oh, Holden got him in. Boz, I'm assuming you didn't?
Nah, absolutely not. I can't. I couldn't even afford Cotton a couple of weeks back, and now I can't even afford KD. As I said, I've just been so far behind that these luxury guys that everyone's getting in, it's just I've got to look elsewhere.
Well, it was crazy that he threw up the 62. Like you, Holden, you must have been absolutely ecstatic because I guess you were thinking, you were going to plan ahead for a week and maybe get a good 40 or something. But to get a 62, he was the 6th best scorer of the round on a single.
Crazy. Yeah, I was umming and ahhing about getting him in early, but I ended up doing it. And he's one of the biggest reasons why I scored a 435 because I ended up captaining White. So if I didn't have Davis, I would have been down in the dumps probably.
And did you, Holden, have him?
Captain White.
Oh no, Holden, did you have KD on your court or did you have him on your bench this round?
No, I had Davis and Cotton on the bench, so that was really good for me.
Very nice.
Well, I guess the other thing when we're looking at the scorers, Casey Pray for 69 points and Keandre Cook 61. I was trying to decide what to do, Boz, and I ended up benching Cook and starting Prather. In that first game, I was brokeable because obviously Keandre went off and Prather didn't. And then the second game, it was the opposite, and they ended up evening out a bit. But But those two Brisbane guys, they looked really good on the weekend. They alternated big games, but they both like in double game weeks. They can each have a big game in those weekends.
Yeah, it's crazy. You look at kind of the game of SuperCoach, and in those double game weeks, you can see how quickly one person has a good game as opposed to a bad game, and it can change on a dime. So I had Cook and Harrison, and after game one, I was thinking, well, fading Prather's a great choice, and then come game two, Prather ends up outscoring both of them, where I probably should have gone Prather in the end. So it goes to show that if you have a player that has one poor game, don't give up hope, don't give up on them, because they can very easily turn it around. But yeah, your Prathers, Cooks, and even Harrison, they're going to be really solid for teams for the rest of the season, to be honest.
Matt Hurt with a big 66. I was really big on him as a rental. I loved him as a bit of a rental. And he's also a guy now, when you have a look at the schedule, where you could actually hold him and it's wait for Sam's other double coming in a couple of weeks, because he's at a decent price, and you're going to have some singles coming up there in your team. But obviously we've breezed over Bryce Cotton. He just got a casual 66. It's a pretty low round for Bryce. Holden, you said that did you say that you couldn't afford Bryce, or was that Boz a couple of weeks ago?
No, that was me. That was me.
Boz. Of course, Holden's got it. I mean, he's in the top 100. You have to have Bryce Cotton in there. There was some disappointing guys too. Holden, did you have any disappointing scorers from last round, or all guys that even you didn't have that you thought were quite disappointing in the round?
Menenga, I mean, he was a bit of a pain in everyone's ass for the last couple of weeks, really. I mean, that entire New Zealand team outside of PJC has just been like a nail in the foot, really.
Yeah, 100%. Boz, your top disappointments of the round?
Oh, look, not really any disappointments. I think maybe Almanza, I kind of chose to keep him over Henschel, just based around with Doolittle going down. I thought maybe he'd probably pull out a little bit better of a score than a 15 on a single, but I think he had a bit of early foul trouble, and that really kind of limited the amount of time on the court that game. And as always, Cotton took about 40 shots. So, maybe Almanza, but you can't really blame a kid. He's only 17, 18 years old, and he's done his job. So I'm still holding him this week, and I've got faith that he'll turn it around with Doolittle still on the sidelines.
Only had 16 minutes, which is a bit weird. Same here. I think he'll be a fine holder. Yeah,
absolutely.
Interesting that you mentioned Menenga, Holden, because I've got two issues now. I've got Menenga, who I don't feel quite as bad about, because I've had him for 6 weeks or something. So it wasn't a big deal. Obviously, he was very popular about 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't big on people buying him at that point. He's now an issue. And we'll talk about trade market in a minute, but I was just raising it because one of the guys that popped up on the scoring, we obviously had Darling with 8 points and Menenga with not many as well, but Jonah Bolden flew in with a 25. Now, 25 is not good, but it shows some extra minutes there that are going to go around in the front court now. In 25 at 166,000, he'd probably build on that in coming weeks. So something to kind of watch out for there. But let's talk about the trade market now. Let's have a look at what everyone wants us to talk about, and that is trading, because it's what everyone loves. When we're looking at players for this round 13, we've got a heap of teams that are relevant that are on the doubles. So this is going to be a huge round. The 36ers hit a double game week. The Bullets obviously continue their run. The Hawks start multiple double game weeks in a row and become a huge target for teams. We've got the last double game week until they hit a single next week for the New Zealand Breakers. Double game week and single for both the Kings and the JJs. So obviously the only consecutive guys from round 13 with double game weeks are going to be 36ers, Bullets and Hawks. The other guys are going to be rentals for a week, or maybe you could hold them through. So I think that we've all smashed on the Bullets already. The 36ers and Hawks are probably going to be the most relevant guys at the moment, building our teams for the future double game week. So, Boz, is that sort of what you're looking at targeting? You're looking at the 36ers and the Hawks now, and you're shifting to them?
Yeah, absolutely, Barnesy. I think I got Trey Callan about 2 weeks ago, and yes, it was going into a round where they had a double followed by 2 singles, but I just thought, had him last year, loved the way he plays. I love watching him play, and it was just someone that I was going to bank on late in the season, so I don't have to kind of worry about getting him back in. So I do have Trey Callan already on my bench, and he'll come straight into my starting lineup this week and hopefully go somewhere near KD in terms of scoring. But yeah, guys like your Sam Froling, who's under 300k and played a really, really solid game on the weekend, really aggressive against Melbourne United, and showed why he can be a double threat for the rest of the year. I know a lot of people got Darius Days in, I think, last week. I think he's okay. He turns the ball over a lot. So you really are relying on someone like Darius Days to be doubling to get his value. But again, if you're looking for that cheaper kind of forward option to plug into your forward line or even on your bench for the rest of the year, Darius Days another great selection. And my favorite one would actually be Tyler Harvey. Watching that guy play, he's insane. He's such a great shooter. He can shoot the ball from three. He's such a threat from outside that he gets straight into the paint. That little lefty floater never misses. Unfortunately, though, I think he's had a couple good games. So I think he's priced at about 330k, which is a touch too pricey for me. But to be honest, everyone already has KD, PJC, a Cook from Brisbane. So there probably isn't any need to actually get Tyler Harvey in. So I think this week, your Froling and your Darius Days will be very popular. Any thoughts on that, Holden?
Yeah, I guess similar train of thought, targeting some of the 36 players, and thought I might actually get like someone like a Cooks in for a rental, or I'm debating that against Froling as well. Definitely need some help in the forwards, though. That's like probably my weakest position at the moment.
Yeah, Cooks is an interesting one. Let's go down the most popular trade-ins at the moment, because at the moment we've got Harrell as the number one trade-in. I was slightly surprised. I thought that Davis would have come into more teams, but Harrell is by far and away the most popular. 21.3% of trades at the moment are Montrezl Harrell coming in. Look, I'm going to throw a question out to you, Holden. First off, we've obviously got Trez there, but we've also got Kendrick Davis at number 3 for most popular. 2 Adelaide superstars that are carving up at the moment. But Holden, there's a lot of teams that can only pick one. So the question is obviously going to be, which one do you prefer? And also, if you're going to fade one, which one can you see working out?
That's a hard question, because I feel like those two are like the closest to must-haves we have at the moment. I'd have to say Davis, right? He's the better captain option. He's the better. He gets the more time on the field. He's just going to be more reliable for you points-wise across the next 6-7 weeks.
Boz, your thoughts? Are you fading Trez in favour of Davis if you can only pick one? And do you think it can work out if a team wants to use that as their strategy?
Well, yeah, I'm in a situation where I do need to fade one. I actually have my choice made up for me purely because I can't afford Davis. So Harrell's the one I can get in personally. Obviously, it's all team dependent. But if you were looking at it in an ideal world, if you could afford both, KD has put the numbers up. KD's got the runs on the board. Not that Harrell doesn't, because Trez has been superb as well. But yeah, KD, you can't go past him. He's dropping 60s on a single just like Cotton. So he's the one to target. But again, if you've got, your PJC, Cook from Brisbane, maybe a Cal already on a bench, or a Bryce Cotton still, and it's the forward line that is weak, just like myself and Holden going into this round. There's no reason why you can't wait an extra week on KD if you can afford him and go for a Montrez, because I think he's pretty keen. He's pretty hungry after his suspension to get back and try to get Adelaide into a playing spot. And I think we'll see him, put up some really big numbers towards the end of the season. So for me, he's coming in this week.
I decided last round that I was going to fade one of these guys, and I decided it was going to be Trez, and I'm going to throw up something else with Harrell as well. But actually, with both these Adelaide guys, I think one of the things that's important is if you think that you can weather the storm for 2 weeks, they've then got a single in 15, sorry. And if you got 2 guys that are going to have a single then of that caliber that are costing well over 400,000. And you're holding them, which you obviously are going to, it can hurt your team a little bit overall. But if you've only got one of them, it's going to be a lot easier. So to me, when I'm having a look at it, I'm thinking that you only need to really get through this fortnight. And to do that, you're going to have to make, I think it all comes down to who your other choice is. Harrell, 75% of his games have been sub 40. Now, that's not to say they're not good, because he's getting 33, 38. That's all great. But you can manage to match that. So I'm looking at a round like this going, there is a chance that Harrell throws up a 60-odd. And you could get someone like our second most favourite trade in on the market at the moment, Froling, at a fraction of the cost. So that's my plan at the moment. I actually think that it can work. And like Holden brought up, I'm not going to reverse it and look at a Davis fade and get in a Harrell, because to me, Davis is an easy captain option at the moment. And Harrell, he's good, but other guys can certainly beat him each week. At the moment, I feel like that Davis is basically like Bryce Cotton, where it's just like you just captain him and set and forget type of thing. So Froling had a big week. He has a break-even of 50. He's only 286,000, so significantly less, almost $175,000 less than what Harrell is. And he's got the doubles coming too. So, I mean, boys, I'll go back to Holden. I think there's been quite a bit of chat on the Discord about Froling. How do you feel about him instead of Harrell, or just him with Harrell if you end up someone with luxury trades and you can get both in?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm looking at, right? So I need to bring in 2 forwards this week. One of them, I've decided it's just going to be Trez. I'm just not going to think about it too much. But I do have the luxury of selling Cotton this week. And the other one I'm debating between Cooks and Froling. And just Froling sounds like the more smarter choice because he's set up for multiple weeks. You don't have to worry about him. You just put him there and then worry about fixing up your Menengas and your Darlings and your Almanzas and whatnot over the next few weeks. But Cooks, he just whipped out a 49 last week. It's tempting.
Well, I mean, Bods, this is the other thing, right? Holden brings up a good point there when you're looking at these top few trade targets, that if you do choose a cheaper guy and you manage to get by for a couple of weeks, it is going to let you fix up your team. And I think that some of this is team dependent, right? Because there's going to be teams that rip themselves apart, that use their last boost potentially, or that have all this money in the bank that they're going to burn, and they've got 2 or maybe even 3 real problem children on their bench that are just going to keep sitting there, just scoring next to nothing. So, I mean, getting a Froling instead of a Harrell means, for me, for example, next week I could turn a Menenga into a gun, or I could turn a Darling even into a gun potentially if I've got enough bank there. So it's not just the Froling versus Harrell. It's what you do with all that extra money as well, isn't it, Boz?
Absolutely. And, the end goal is to have 9, 10 premiums in your side, albeit 5 of them on the bench. But as we know, 50% of your score does go to that. And you see with Holden on the weekend having KD and Cotton in his guard spots on the bench, that's literally 60 points he's getting, or even 65, 70 points. Whereas other people would have, let's say, for example, maybe a Dellavedova who scored about a 50 and then someone else scoring a 20. So you can really maximize your points, not only on the field, but on the bench if you are making these smart choices. And I'll just flag one thing on my season. There's been 2 or 3 weeks where I've had the decision to downgrade, or let's say, if it was a 1-week rental on Cooks or thinking longer term and getting a cheaper center, I've always gone the better player. So I've always gone the 1-week rental, and not once this year has it paid off for me. I've always found myself either having, that person I've gotten in have a bit of a down week. So he didn't actually get the 70 I thought he'd get. He only got a 50. So again, you're not getting any kind of boost with the score. And then the next week trading him out, you're selling yourself short and haven't been able to get in certain players because I've actually kind of tried to go with that rental play. So, it's such a tough choice. But I think this time in the season, probably playing it safe is a better position to be
in. And the 4th most popular player is Xavier Cooks. And Holden, I know that you mentioned that you're tossing that up. I actually held Cooks for this reason because I thought he could be good last round, and he was. Almost scored a 50 on a single. And now he's got the double game week. One of the interesting things with the Kings is you're going to hit a single next week, but then you're hitting 3 doubles in a row again. So you've only got to, if you get Cooks in this week, I'm going to go out there and say, I don't even think he's a rental, because you can get him in this week and go, I'm going to cop a single. And even if we benchmark him against Harrell, right, I'm going to cop a single in 14. But in 15, when Harrell's going to cop a single for all his owners, I've got Cooks on a double anyway. So you got to look a bit longer term. I actually think I really like it. I've got Cooks. So one of the other caveats to me not getting Harrell in, I've already got Cooks and I've held him. So I've got him this week instead. But I am going to throw a few things out to you, Holden, just to muddy the waters for your decisions, for your trades, and see how you feel about it. The thing that I like about Cooks is that Gorge has actually changed that lineup. I have no idea as a Kings fan why. But Jalen Adams and Oliver both starting on the bench again is insane to me. But what it means is But you got Bruce and Leafa as the starting backcourt. Like it's the Cook show to start these games at the moment, and he's staggering the minutes that Cooks gets all this usage, and you can see it. Like his scoring has upticked, and he had that big game last week. So I think that his value is actually on the upswing because of those moves by Gorge as well. And when you're looking at the cost, he's going to cost a lot less than what Harrell is. And then you look at the ownership numbers, and like Harrell's already, 21.3% of teams are bringing him in at the moment, just this week, plus the ownership he's already got. He's going to be significantly more higher owned than what Harrell is, than what Cooks is going to be. So, I mean, if you're trying to chase as well, Holden, these are the type of moves that you got to kind of, risk it and try and make.
Yeah, I agree. I think just like in the particular situation I find myself in, with having if I was to go ahead and buy, I really want Cooks. He's amazing, right? But the bench forwards aren't great. It's Miles and Peatling. So for me, it would feel like Cooks might have to be a rental, because I can't rock out in the starting position with Miles or Peatling next week. I'd have to do some funny stuff and get him in and send him out, and then maybe buy him again. Which is what's making me think that it might be a bad idea and I should just get Froling.
Yeah, well, I mean, round 14 too, Holden, there is only 4 doubles. So there is an argument that you could say, if you've got enough doubles on your bench with the middling guys, you could maybe start 4 and have someone like a Cooks who, you might feel better having a Froling there that's got a double. But say, Froling can easily score a 50. And that's one of the knocks on Froling, right? He's very solid, but a lot of the time he's scoring 25s, and that's going to be a solid 50-point round. But Cooks can do that in one round. Or maybe you lose 5 points and he does a 45, and then you got the string of doubles from Cooks with the upside. So I think I'm the same as you. I always look at the double game week guys and go, geez, I've got to get the double game week guys. But I found myself the last month especially pulling myself back a little bit and going, hang on. It is important, but you keep seeing time and time again these single game elite guys still be able to score at that level. So you can't discount that as well.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think we've just made it harder for Holden. Boz, do you want to put the stake in a little bit more and twist it around and make it even harder? Or are you against Cooks for this week? Would you just go to the other doubles of the run of the Hawks or Adelaide?
Oh, yeah, I think just based around my luck and what I've kind of found with my experience this year, I think if it was me in this position next year, I'll be playing it as safe as possible and targeting the schedule. But you're right, a knock on Froling is 100%. If he's not doubling, he doesn't do much else because he doesn't really get steals. He doesn't really block as well for a big guy. Sometimes gets some assists, but if he's not doubling, you kind of see those scores peter between 22 and 27 as opposed to a Cooks who does everything, literally scores, rebounds, blocks, steals, and assists. So, I guess it's a big gamble you'll be making if you're putting Cooks in, but it could definitely pay off if Froling has a stinker one of the games.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Froling and probably going to get him in, but by no means is he a slam dunk. And I'd probably say to the listeners, if you're getting someone like him in, to me, I describe him as a foundation guy because you've got a foundation for a consistent 50 points every week for a lot, 5 weeks in a row now. And that's the thing. The Hawks have got that 5 weeks in a row, so you can set and forget him and know that you're getting a good score every week. It's not really up and down on the doubles, but it's not going to be elite. So he's a bit of an anchor foundation to make sure you get a solid, consistent score, but you need those other elite options above him. And if you don't have enough of those and you're counting Froling as one of those that you're bringing in, your team's going to struggle in the scoring department. Prather is coming into teams at 300. I just had to squint to have a look again. 339,000. So people are paying a lot of money for Prather now. I am a big fan. He is scoring like one of the elite guns, boys. But is 340,000 too much?
I guess it's not ideal because you could have got him for 100K cheaper 4 weeks ago, but there's a reason why it's 340K, isn't there? He's putting up top 5 scores every week. So it looks like Brisbane are pushing really hard to make the playoffs. It looks like they love using Prather as an option. It's just that Josh Bannon factor. When he comes back, and I thought he was playing this week. I didn't really watch many of the games this week, but I thought I read somewhere that he was fit to go, but obviously they didn't use him. that's just the one kind of thing that's in the background. You know, when Bannon comes back, I think Pleb put out some stats that Prather scored 9 less SuperCoach on average in the games that Bannon was playing for Brisbane. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that works. So maybe don't take the gamble now that he's 340K. But again, the output's there.
Holden, I reckon it becomes an issue. If you put him at guard, I wouldn't do it. But if you're putting him at forward, I probably still would, because forward's a little bit slimmer. Is it? Yeah, you've obviously got Prather in your side.
Yeah, I do. He's sitting in my guard on my guard bench at the moment. But yeah, look, I probably agree with most of what Boz has said. The Bannon factor is like a big question mark, and I feel like once Bannon comes back in, it might become a thing where there's just too many mouths to feed at Brisbane when it comes to SC points. Like we consistently see maybe 2, maybe 3 of them pop off every game, right? And it's been amazing having 3 of them. But would you really buy Prather in at this point when there's another guy coming in and he's costing as much as he is? I couldn't do it myself.
It's a tough call. I'm not that worried about Bannon, because I think, look, there's two different arguments. There's obviously Pleb's statistical argument, which is a very good one because you can't really say that stats are wrong. But there can be context, and I will throw out a little bit of context. Prather came back into the league after being out for many years, and he came back from an injury as well, and he started slow. And that coincided with, Bannon was there round 1 as well. So those Bannon numbers are also, whilst Prather was working his way back into league shape and also game shape. So maybe he just continues on, keeps playing as well as what he is now, because he's doing things now that he just wasn't at the start of the year, and it wasn't really about usage. Now, his usage will go down a bit. I think that his boards will go down with Bannon, obviously, and then some of his, maybe some of his usage, but I still think he's going to score well enough. It's a bit of a tough one, because I could see him going on a tear for the rest of the year, and Brisbane got a lot of doubles. A couple of other guns. Obviously, Harrison's coming in. He's a premium centre option. We've talked about him a lot. He's obviously a good option, so we won't spend too much time on him. But Jalen Adams as a rental, potentially, or maybe teams are looking at holding him. I find it a lot easier, Boz, to get in Cooks and hold him, because he's in that forward spot, like I said. When you're taking up a guard spot, which is our real high scorers and a lot of options at the moment on double game weeks, with a guy in Jalen Adams that next week is going to be on a single, you probably have to sell him almost. But it's interesting because we talk about pod moves, Boz, and that's a massive one. He's not going to be in many teams at all. He's only at 7% at the moment. He's still going to be sub 10% after trades this week. And he's only 370,000 compared to someone like Davis, and he's coming off a monster game. He's coming off the bench, but he's still getting just as many minutes, Boz, and he's still scoring fantastic and closing in crunch time.
Yeah, Barnesy, as you said, it's basically the way Gordon's running the rotations. Is the only reason he starts on the bench is because they see it works at the start of the game, but then he ends up being the one closing. So, yeah, massive play to get Adams. He's burnt myself and many other people this season with the injuries, but it seems to me every other game that people don't have him, he goes absolutely bananas. So, yeah, again, it could be a really sneaky play that you kind of hold on to. But in saying that, Barnesy, you're right. Who are you trading out from your guards to get him in? Because most people have your Cotton, KD, and PJC already set up. So are people just getting rid of Cotton now because he's gone nuts and they think, oh, maybe we can get Adams in for the double and hope that kind of outscores Cotton? It'd be really interesting to see those people that are getting Adams in, who they're choosing to kind of trade out. They must be in a very nice position.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's a downgrade option from Cotton, right? So if people want to free up, if people already got Davis in and they want to free up some money to Harrell, Adams actually frees up cash to make that trade. But I'll throw out there, Holden, like numbers-wise, 4 out of his last 6 games for Adams, he's gone 40 plus. He's got 48, 23, 34, 46, and 40. It's actually a pretty good run that I think's gone under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, I don't think any of us have the time to really focus on Adams too much because, again, I guess you kind of touched on it, right? He hasn't had the reliable run of doubles for a while. So I guess like most, the nature is to not look at guys like that. But, looking at it now, it's amazing. Kind of making me think about wanting Adams now, but I definitely can't buy another guard.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're now going to talk a little bit with trade-ins with pods, cheapies and also team-specific stuff. And I will say with someone like Adams, like there is a world where you have a really well-built team or a lucky team, either or, and they've got doubles everywhere in their team this week. And you could trade it out like a PJC and go, you know what? I reckon Adams is going to outscore him this round. And I've got the doubles lined up for next week already. And then I can hold Adams and he can be my guy that's there with Kendrick Davis. And I have those two. I think that's an option. But, boys, I think that the hardest thing at the moment, we've talked about all these elite options, and the hardest thing I think is the cheap ones. There's guys that are searching for someone to solve a Darling problem, a Menenga problem, or even some other ones that are still hanging around. And I've got Smith Milner there as the fifth most popular trade in. He's $99,000. He only has a break even of 5. He's got the Brisbane double game weeks. And it looks really enticing at the forward spot just to have sitting there on your bench. I think he's a bit of a trap, and I'm going to throw it out there. Boz, I think he's a bit of a trap for a number of reasons. And I'm someone who looked at him too. He had an 11 in that game against the Kings and a 23 in the game before. His minutes for that 11-point outing last round were actually better at 20 minutes. So his PPM has actually been not very good. And even when you look before, round 11 against Adelaide, he had a 13-point game where he played 21 minutes, which is the most minutes he's played all year. The 23 last round in that game against Sem seems like an anomaly. And then you factor in the other major point, Boz, and that is that Bannon has been out.
Yeah, I think with Tommy Smith, Milner, it's a couple of things. Number one, he's getting more minutes because of Bannon out, and I think because Rocco's a bit out of favour as well. So he plays that kind of stretch 4-5 at times. And against Sem on Thursday night, he played really well. Came up really big at the end with a couple of big shots, and he got a steal and a dunk, so quickly kind of got his points up. But I think as soon as Bannon gets back, his minutes reduce significantly. He's probably the first one I see going out of that rotation or maybe playing, 4 or 5 minutes. But yeah, big trap, I would say, Barnesy, for those couple of reasons there.
Holden, you're probably on board with the trap on Smith Milner, judging by our Discord chat anyway. So I'll throw a different guy at you. Nick Marshall, right behind him, 136,000. And people are looking at him as a bit of a downgrade, obviously. I've got the same issue with him, Holden. He's been getting minutes, like 28 to 30 minutes these last two, and he scored 17 and 12 points. Now, obviously on the doubles, that's a 29-point round, but you're not really going to go up a lot, and you're not going to get huge points there. So I sort of feel a little bit similar to him, even though Adelaide don't really have anyone out like a Bannon. Yeah,
I think with both those guys, you're paying what you're getting, right? Like the 136 or the 100,000, whatever they're worth. That's what they're going to give you on the field, and like you're not going to go up, you're not going to get down. It's basically just a stopgap. Like if you really need to do it to solve another world-ending problem this week, like I'm not against it, but at the same time, like I do think you need to factor in you're going to have to get rid of these guys pretty quick, or they're going to be a problem as well.
I mean, Holden, have you seen any guys sub 200,000 that you just sort of think could solve a Menenga problem that you can just let sit there? Because I mean, I think that's the ultimate, right? Like even if you're not getting a lot of points, if they're going to be a consistent 30-pluser on double game weeks for, say, the Bullets going forward for all these doubles, or even the Hawks, or even Adelaide, even though they got that single, you can just sit them there, not get a Darling issue, not get a Menenga issue, and just forget about them. Have you managed to find any of those gold nuggets?
The only one I'm really thinking about in that kind of category would be, I can't do it this. I don't want to do it this week. I want to sit and watch. But what happens with Bolden? I think there might be a possibility he gets more minutes because it's his first game back, essentially, right, in a while. I could see him getting more minutes. That's the only thing that really interests me at the moment. But it feels like a wasteland out there at the moment.
Feels real hard, Boz. And I'm a guy that's looking. So tell me, do you have anything for me? Is anyone sub 200,000 that you think is more consistent or better than a Smith Milner or a Marshall?
Yeah, there's a few I'm looking at. I mean, I should have mentioned it before, but I've already got Jonah Bolden. I brought him in this week because I saw he was back from injury. I thought he'll be someone that I would be getting in a couple of weeks because he's so cheap, and I've seen what he can do in limited minutes in Sydney. So, Holden, I think you're on the right track. I think New Zealand are better with him in the team. I was watching him over the weekend, and yes, they got smashed in both games, but when they made runs in games, he was on the court. His shot hasn't yet fallen. I think he's still trying to get his legs back under him after his calf injury. But yeah, Bolden could be an option if you're ready to gamble. But I think, yeah, Holden, you're the smart one, probably waiting a couple of weeks, whereas I've just had to kind of throw myself into it. Look, Jarrell Martin, someone I've also got at 180K, put out a 20 this week. I think that's all you'll get from him on a good day. So again, with Adelaide's run of doubles coming up, if you can get you a 35-40 on the bench, not too bad. And a couple ones at the top of like the 190K range, super consistent Mitch Norton for Brisbane. So they like him. They like him running the point guard spot. He got a 38 on the double over the weekend, and I think that's a realistic kind of number for him. So him at 194 is not too bad. And maybe if you're daring, a Karim Lopez, who, as you said, Barnesy, he probably New Zealand are probably trending towards the bottom of the ladder now. And yes, he's had a few stinkers for people that have held him for a while, but they got to kind of put minutes into this kid. And I think you saw on the weekend that, especially in that game against Adelaide, he again showed some really great signs with a couple of blocks and some flashy finishes and some rebounding. So, look, they're all ugly options, but you got to find potential somewhere. You got to find a downgrade somewhere. So, look, for me, I've actually got two of them already. I've got Jarrell Martin and Bolden. And there's no reason why I won't be getting another one of those in this week to facilitate maybe.
I can tell you so many reasons to not get another one in.
Yeah.
That's
making
a tough sled and getting a third one of those.
Making a collection of spuds over there, Boz.
Yeah, it's fun. Just on my bench, the bench spuds we can call them.
Actually, there is one that I thought about. Foxwell. What do you guys think about Foxwell?
Oh, it's so hard with Foxwell. I mean, I've even got to check how much he is now because he had a negative break even 100 weeks ago.
He's 187K with a 18 break even. The thing that worries me is his last game, he played 13 minutes, but before that, it's 20, 19, 18.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, so
that's
I think with Foxwell, he's got the two singles in a row, along with Walton. So I reckon that you might be right looking there still, but I think that he's probably going to be the same price by the time we get to round 15, 3 doubles in a row, because he's still got the two singles to go the next two. So that's probably, along with, I think Boz mentioned Walton just then as well. So that's the other issue, I guess.
Because he played really well in that throwdown on Sunday, Derek Walton Jr. I think he put out a 35-point score himself, and he'll probably be someone that's quite relevant in a couple of weeks' time when Sam go on a bit of a nicer fixture run.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. He's only 192,000. So I mean, if we said preseason, like we're going to run a C Hub podcast show, and we're going to talk about how Foxwell's a better buy than Derek Walton Jr. and they're like within 4K of each other. Like everyone would have said, don't even bother recording podcast shows anymore. Just leave. Don't even play NBL. It's just crazy. But that's where we're at. So I'm watching these Semglows the next 2 weeks because I think Walton might become relevant. I will throw in my 2 cents, which I know Holden disagrees with a little bit because we spoke about it on Discord. I have temporarily put in Jarrell Martin, and I don't feel good about it. And I think Boz nailed it where he said they're all bad options. But the thing is, you can't, like, if you own someone like Menenga, I think it makes sense. Or if you have to free up money to get a Davis or Harrell and you can't afford both, especially you've got to get one of them. I think it makes sense that you've got to look for something. And the thing with SuperCoach is, right, it's all about timing and then as well as a shitload of luck. And out of all these bad options, sub 200,000, there's half a dozen of them we've talked about. One of them will work out. Good guess as to which one, but one of them will. Now, the reason why I want to get rid of Menenga so much, and I'm not going to make any money out of it going from him to a Martin, but at least Martin has got the doubles and Menenga's got a 55 break even, so he's going to absolutely bleed cash now. Martin has not been good, but in saying that, he was never fit for the start of the season. And the main thing that I like with Martin is price point of 180. He's got a 33 break even, so I don't think he's going to get any lower. Like, to me, I think that his floor is kind of 30 plus, and that's what he's been doing. If we got the good Jarrell Martin, we're looking at 40 plus rounds. 37 points in his last 2 games. How likely is that? Maybe. I think there's a chance, but to me, I think with him, the good thing is that the floor's 30 plus, and they've got all the double game weeks. And the other thing with him too, Holden, I know you don't love him, but he is dual, and I need a dual there because I've got to be able to move around that second centre spot. And someone like Smith Milner, I don't even think it's a dual. I think he's a forward only. So, yeah, I don't love Martin, and I need to say that to Holden specifically and personally because we chatted about it in Discord. I didn't want him to go away thinking I thought Martin was a gun. But if I've got to get someone cheap, sub 200,000, I reckon I've got to lean with him out of the options.
Fair enough. No, honestly, it's not the like worst decision, right? Like he's not gonna, like you already mentioned it. He's not gonna do wonders for you. He's just gonna sit there and get like a basement. Well, get you scores that you paid for. So I think it's fine. Like it's not the worst decision. It's just you're probably gonna have to upgrade him again down the line. It's just feels like wasting another trade on a trade.
Yeah, and like I think the thing is too that. Like if you got a Darling there, he could give you a 3-point round, could give you a 1-point round in a single coming up. Like he said, that's just a killer. You can't have that. And I know we mentioned Karim Lopez, but Boz, New Zealand scare the hell out of me. Like they've now got Taco 4 and Bolden back in the forward and centre rotations, and they're a mess and they're not any good. So getting any of those guys in really worries me. Whereas Adelaide is actually playing well, and Martin has. In the pedigree of doing something in the past at least. So yeah, it is tough though, isn't it, Boz? Like there isn't many cheap options, and if you've got 2 trades to make every round, and if one of them's just to try and avoid a Darling 3-point score or even a Menenga 15-point score, then you are upgrading points at least. It just might not feel very good at the time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think lastly we didn't touch on him, but he's still a good buy. Peatling as well, 142k. String of doubles coming up. He's starting again. What you said, Barnesy, there about teams that you can trust. Illawarra you can trust. Tatum has a really firm set rotation, and Peatling gets those 20 minutes a game. So there's no reason why he isn't the one churning out that 35 to 40 on your bench each week.
Yeah, it's got to be said. Like Holden, if we can go up past the 200 mark, there's a lot of options. Darius Days is very popular at the moment. He's sub 240. If you can go that 220 to 240 range, there is a lot of options. So if teams have boosts, I think that this is the time to use them to clean that mess up rather than going for one of these riskier ones. If you can do a Days instead of a Martin and these guys, it's a much better option. I obviously have no boost, so I can't do that, mate.
I was offering people money for a boost in the Discord. That would be great right about now, but don't even know. I can't even remember what a boost is anymore.
Nah, you'd make a lot of money out of that if you could sell them. It'd be better than Christmas lines at Big W. Let's have a look at the trade outs at the moment quickly before we look at the captains to close off. Trade out wise, boys, there is some controversial ones there, and there's a lot that makes sense. So the first one is Jack White. I captain Jack White, as we spoke about before. Holden did as well. He's got a 59 break even on a single. That's enough of a reason anyway. But I am so livid with Jack White. Holden, I would just trade him out anyway just because I'm so angry at that second game. He did nothing. He had 4-1 at the half with nothing else.
He got into foul trouble early. Got subbed out basically all of the second quarter or something. The second half of the first quarter. Yeah, it's just been horrible. I was crowing after his first game because I was like, I had a couple of friends that captained PJC and they're giving it to me. And he scored more than PJC, and I was like, I got one right finally, but no, it didn't.
Well, I think that he just makes sense.
Yeah. In saying that and you trade him out this week for sure, Jack White, but just to kind of back him up away, like watching Melbourne play, they don't actually run any plays through him. So, he gets all these points from fast breaks. Obviously, he's rebounding. He scores purely off second chance points and running. They don't actually physically run a play that ends up with him getting the ball and shooting. I watch it all the time. Like, it's always Rob Lowe who ends up on the end of a pick and roll with Dellavedova or a pick and pop. It's always obviously your Chris Goulding and your Ian Clark that they're trying to get open for a shot. But he takes 8 shots a game. It's ridiculous.
To me, he should be on the field.
Say it again, sorry?
I was just saying, it's like they don't think he's on the field when he's on.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know why he's not taking minimum 12, 15 shots a game. He's their best player. But, that's just from a basketball standpoint, a bit of annoying.
Well, I know why he's not taking threes because he's no good at them. But he's 0 of 5 or 1 of 5, 1 of 6 on the weekend. He's not. He was shooting better in Denver from 3-point range at NBA 3-point range than what he is in the NBL with the short distance. I don't know what's happened to his 3-point shot, but I think that's hurt his offense from a basketball point of view, and it's peeled in a SuperCoach. They do run some plays for him, Boz. They throw alley-oops that nobody else except Jack White in the world could possibly finish. That's the plays that they run for him. They make him work really, really hard to try and finish.
Maybe I'm biased because every time I own him, I'm just staring at him the whole time, and I'm like, why isn't this play going through Jack White? Why hasn't he touched the ball yet?
He doesn't get enough usage, and he's part of that is because the commentators and everyone also praise him because he's such a great team player and he plays so well within the system. But part of that definitely hurts his SuperCoach output. A lot of Perth guys going. So I would be absolutely culling every Perth guy I have. Armanza, Henschel, very popular trade-outs. But Bryce Cotton is a little bit more controversial. So I've tried as hard as I possibly can to hold Cotton. And I think the teams would do themselves a favour to do that. He has a 16 break even. So Holden, he's guaranteed to make money this week. I'm going to throw down the guarantee. He's guaranteed to make money this week. 16 break even. The only argument that people will throw out at us, I think, is that he's travelling to the Snake Pit to play Illawarra. He traditionally has been locked up a little bit by them, and they do that to opposing guards. They do defend well. I don't care. He's in white-hot form. The first player since Andrew Gaze to go 4 40-plus point games in a row, or 5. I can't remember which one it is because he's been doing it every week. I'm trying to hold him. So Holden, I don't think that he's a great trade-out. I think that anyone that could hold him should because he's one of those guys that can throw up a 60 in a single anytime, and he's so on fire at the moment that I wouldn't put it past him against any team in the comp. Obviously, teams have to trade him out to get a Davis. That's okay, but are you trying to hold him? Are you trying to keep Bryce Cotton in your team that one extra week?
On the Sunday night after the games finished, I was playing around with my trades. The first 700 that I did on that very night were keeping Bryce in. Because I can get, for example, I could do White and Menenga to Harrell, but then I've got 120, 130K left, and I've got to buy a Spud, right? And I don't want to buy another Spud. And I had to deal with that problem. But, do you think I should? I don't know. I'm looking for advice here, boys. I'm a bit of a rookie.
Well, I think one of the things that it does, Boz, is that if you do hold Cotton for another week, he could be over 500K, so it is a bit of extra cash. But you can kind of bide your time and go, look, I might get one Spud in this week, but I know next week I'm going to trade Bryce after I get hopefully a 50-plus point outing from him this week and an extra 15, 20K. And I've got the money to burn next week where both my trades are going to be to two good players, two elite players. So if you look a bit forward a bit, I reckon that you can actually get around doing that.
Yeah, and you could even potentially kind of trade that Spud straight back out. If you are trading Cotton out, you can still get two really good players by trading Cotton on top of potentially that Spud who might not have paid off and scored the 25 that you were hoping they scored over the double.
Would you? So the idea is you'd still sell Cotton out in this scenario, but just next week. Is there a world where you'd hold him? Because he might, I think Statman was talking about it in the Discord earlier, right? He might just price himself out. You might not be able to get him back in if you have him now.
If you could hold him, I think it's ideal. I just think that it would be a team that has some of the highest value teams in the game at the moment would be able to do it. But if you're not one of those teams, I just think that you end up sacrificing too much elsewhere, and you're not getting a Davis in, or you're not getting a Harrell in, or you're playing a Spud on a double game week instead of 5 elite guys. So, yeah, if you can hold him, him and Davis are guys that I think you just hold as long as you can. But I just don't. Boz, how do you feel? Because I don't think many teams will have the luxury to hold him all the way through. I might hold him 1 week and then I'm going to sell him because I don't have that luxury.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking here at the fixture as well, they've only got 3 doubles for the rest of the season. Not to say that Bryce doesn't put up, he puts up 60s on singles, but in 2 of those 3 doubles, every single team has the double as well. So, in terms of how he's going to set you apart, if you're kind of banking on holding him for these 3 doubles that they have, you're going to be able to find plays that are going to hopefully score similar. By that time, you're going to be able to obviously still have KD. You probably will get PJC back in or still have held him after New Zealand's a single game week. And you're going to be able to have those guards there that may actually score similar or more than Cotton on those doubles. So I think for me, there comes a point where you do need to move him on and better your team. And, whether it's this week, next week, or the week after, there's going to be a time where you should be getting rid of Bryce Cotton. Because, fair play. If he puts up 60s on singles for the rest of the year, that's incredible. But there'll be a time where he doesn't. There'll be a time where someone will regret holding him an extra week where he goes maybe a 20 on one of the singles, But at the moment, it doesn't look like happening, does it?
It doesn't. Interesting, like round 19, the Brisbane Bullets double run stops, and that's after a single of Perth, and their last double for Perth. So you could definitely end up doing a Prather to Bryce fairly easily if things work out, and you just leave Bryce for that last 2 rounds, and you're only going to miss 2 doubles. So, yeah, I'm planning on getting rid of him next week, but I think that he's a really good hold still this week. There's some other guys that are going out that all make sense. Lockie Aldrich, though, I haven't looked much at Lockie. He's 210,000. He's got a 56 break even. But I sort of pinpointed him as a bit of a discussion point in the trade outs and probably the last one because the rest all make sense. We've just spoken about it, but the Hawks have 5 rounds in a row of double game weeks. Now, even though he's got a 50s break even, he's coming off a 6 versus Melbourne, which is really going to hurt him, Holden. But before that, his games are 26, 19, 24, 20, 19, 26. Basically, since round 7, he's been safe as a bank at around that 20 to mid-20s type of range. He's just had a spud game, the last one. With all the doubles coming up, I'd actually be inclined to even consider holding him because I think that he's going to make more money by the time Illawarra gets to the end of these doubles. And he could very well be scoring between 30 and 40 points every round for the next 5 rounds in a row, Holden.
Yeah, I would argue that would you want him and like a Darius Days, or would you pick between one of those two?
Oh, if I already owned Aldrich, I'd have no problem getting a Days in. So yeah, I'd be fine to have both. But I guess it depends on how many other Hawks you got, right? Like if you're going to also have a Kell and a Froling, then it starts to become a bit much. But just the Hawks look pretty good at the moment, though, Holden. So maybe it's all right.
They do. I started the year with Aldrich, actually. Yeah, I can't say anything against it. Like, he seems fine. He'll chug along. I think, like the type of player I am, I'd rather do the dice roll with Days, a character like Days, and not try and have both in.
Boz, how do you feel if you're an Aldrich owner? Are you clamouring to sell him, or would you just hold him?
Who's even got him? I don't. When did people kept him since round 1, or have people traded him in at some point? Like I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, who's got him?
Well, they're obviously active teams because they're trading him out.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm stunned here, but look, I would keep him because you've held him for this point in time. He's now got his double run coming up, and all it takes is a Pete Ling injury or a Darius Days injury or Froling to play a down game, and Tatum will roll him out there. Tatum trusts him. So, yeah, there's no reason why he doesn't actually get a bit of a bump in his scoring. I think that Melbourne game's a bit of an outlier. Plus, Froling was playing so well that they didn't actually probably want Aldrich out there. They were giving Froling extended minutes because he was just dominating Melbourne in the paint. But, yeah, if you have Aldrich, like, good on you. That's baffled me.
We're going to go to Captain's Talk now to close up. Holden,
this might be the shortest conversation this year, right?
Top 3 captains. Give us your top 3. So give us like a pod one in there and a couple. I can probably guess that your number 1's going to be Davis.
Yeah, number 1's definitely Davis. I'm not going to try and go against the grain this week. I didn't captain Cotton for any of his pop-off games on his doubles. I didn't captain PJC last week. I've been going against the grain the whole time. I'm just going to stop doing that. Just turn myself into a sheep and captain Davis. The other 2, I guess you could still have a whack on PJC if you have him, or try and figure out which Brisbane player is going to be the one that's the recipient of most of the attack. Your Prather and your Harrisons and your Cooks. If you're bringing in Trez, obviously Trez as well.
Yeah, Trez is a real good runner. I forgot about him just then. Top three?
I've got to not pick KD because I won't be able to get him, but KD is the obvious number one. I like Harrison purely because they versus Cairns, and Cairns don't have any big guys. So I think Gak's out, Wardenberg's out. I don't actually know. They'll probably play Tanner Groves, actually. So Harrison could be in for a big night, a big double-double there. And then
He'll fell out against Harrell in the second game, though.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was going to say then you hope that he just survives against Adelaide. But I think, both the Adelaide studs are pretty safe in your Trez and KD. They've got most of the usage at the moment there. PJC, nervous against Tassie. He scraped to a 25 last week against Tasmania. He was on 17 with 3 minutes left. They were getting blown out, and they kept him on the court, and he somehow got up to 25 against them. So that makes me a bit nerve-wracking to pick him again there. Apart from that, though, it doesn't seem like, I don't know, I wouldn't roll a dice on a Froling because he's pretty much too safe for my liking. I think those three. Any one of those three, KD if you own him. Pretty obvious.
Boys, I'll let you both go first, and you've missed out on the pod captain of the round.
Oh, cool.
Looks like I'm going to have to bring it home. Xavier Cooks. I think that the Kings are going to do an absolute number. I have zero faith in New Zealand. People are like, what's wrong with the Breakers? They're not very good. Their roster's not very good, and they're going to continue not being very good. So I've got zero faith in PJC, and I have a lot of faith in Xavier Cooks killing them in that first game. And you know how I like to start my weekend? I like to open a beer up. I like to have the basketball about to start for the round with the first game and have my captain go ballistic in it. And, then I can put my feet up and be happy at least for 24 hours. So Xavier Cooks has a lot of pluses. Almost scored a 50 in one game last week. His second game is against the Hawks, but it is at home at Kudos versus the Hawks. So I think that he's the pod captain of the round. But I've obviously got to agree with you, boys. It's Davis all the way. They've got Sem, and then they've got Brisbane playing in Adelaide. Two of the best matchups that you can have. Cairns is probably the other good one, but I think that those are two really good matchups for Adelaide. So, of course, Davis should be number one, but I'm going to go for Cooks as a dark horse at number two. I actually think that he could go really well, and Harrell being the other obvious one. So, there you go, Holden. Get Cooks in and put the C on him because you've gone against the grain the whole year. That's the way to do it.
This has been the most unhelpful conversation because I'm sitting here going, how do I hold Cotton now? Sure, I'll try and get... Boys, I'm going to hold Cotton. I'm going to get Trez. I'm going to get Cooks. And I might even get Adams. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but it'll happen somehow.
There you go. See?
All in 1 week.
All in 1 week.
Well, I need to go through and have a look at how everyone's doing because we've had some fantastic results and this week has been no exception. Overall, we've got 12 in the top 1K and top scores of the round. Yando, Kane Anderson, the godfather himself of the SuperCoach Hub, representing Podmasters SC, 459 for Dr. Kando. So SC Hub is doing a cracking go at NBL SuperCoach at the moment. He beat me by 8 points. I was second, so I don't ever get to talk about my top score. Looking at league ranks, non-NBL Podmasters is at 13, and NBL Podmasters head-to-head is at 16. And then we've also got 114 in the top 1K. So it's just crazy how well the SC Hub is going at the moment. If anyone is not on the Discord server for the SC Hub or not following the socials, make sure you follow the SC Hub because it is great advice on there, great chat for NBL. And it will also be there for NRL when it's starting with Team Picker out, and also BBL's obviously launched too. We've got everything happening. And get on the Discord server for SC Hub for all the different SuperCoach sports. Boys, great episode. Holden, thank you for your debuting and for your knowledge. And top 100, keep it on going, mate.
Thanks for having me, boys. Thank you.
Boz, as always, done well, mate. And look, battling away, but I reckon that all three of your spuds that you're going to have on the bench this week are going to work out. So best of luck.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking for the last 10 weeks. So hopefully I can finally get a win there. And the last thing I just want to touch on is make sure everyone you are ready to go at lockout this week because games for the next round start immediately. Okay, we have games from this Friday all the way through to January, I'm pretty sure. So we do not miss a game from here on out every day. So yeah, get those trades done super quick.
Excellent advice. So, make sure that you have a look at those because there's a lot of games. It's going to be great. Enjoy this week, everyone. It's a week before Christmas as well. We're going to have the Christmas Day games and everything coming up next week. I'll be on in a couple of weeks again. SC Hub, go follow them. Go get on the Discord and we can have a chat there. But good luck with all your trades. Good luck with your NBL this week. Hopefully you enjoy it. And the SC Hub will be back next week with a brand new episode.
See you later.
Bye.